Hello and welcome back to another week of the DP World Tour picks and bets. Skylar, Hoke here, joined by my good friend Tom Jacobs. The two of us are back in action for the Hero Indian Open. Tom, it's been probably a month, man. How you doing?
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's been a hectic month or so, but glad to be back and talking golf with you, Sky. And we've had a couple of big events that they've been strange. Like we had the sort of the shortened event last week, but another first time winner, new one, and one that we've obviously talked a fair bit about probably in the few years that we've been doing the show.
I think a fair amount is probably light saying that we've been hard on Richard Mansell to get that first win, right? I mean, it's good for him. I mean, I think he seems to be like a great guy, well liked among his peers there, really talented ball striker, good golfer, just had that in him where he hadn't struggled or hadn't got over the line on Sunday and a lot of struggles. And ultimately, maybe 54 holes helps where you just have to put a pedal to the metal, a packed leaderboard where you just don't know where you stand probably a lot of the times. I mean, he came out blitzing on Sunday. I think it was like 5 birdies on the front in a row. So good for him. Happy to have that for Mansell. And maybe you hope it's a Laurie Cantor-esque kind of rise where he now feels like a huge weight is lifted and he lives up to the potential that he has. There wasn't much life from my betting card over the last few weeks without you joining in with Baroff in there. Hao Tong Lee, who you had for first round leader last week, got you some places back there. Was a really good selection. Didn't have as good of a Saturday, but still feel like it's just an intermittent weird year on the DP World Tour, and we'll get our groove hopefully this week.
Oh yeah, like I think it's going to come, and like I had Marcus Armitage like tied for first in the first round leader market last week. Like it just feels like even when things are going well in that respect, you then get this kind of clawback of it being tied, right? And like you said, it just seems to be a bit of a holding pattern right now on the DP World Tour. And I think this is going to happen now until we get the major, like get the Masters out of the way, and then they can kind of take over again. And to be honest, guy, like when you look at the schedule, like really and truly, everyone's kind of waiting for like September, October time, right? Like for all the bigger events. So it's a tough place. We've obviously talked about the difficulties of I mean, great from a player perspective, being able to go straight over onto the PGA Tour if you play so well, but what that's doing to the tour and the depth is hard to kind of overlook, right? So yeah, we've got that, but as we always say, we enjoy it regardless of who's playing, and sometimes adds a more interesting wrinkle to it. So last week, obviously, Mansell breaking through, Nakajima returned to form, which is been a while, right? And he now comes back as a defending champion this week, so couldn't have timed it better. Tom McKibbing, third place, and he's coming over from Liv. So all these kind of high-profile players and names on the DP World Tour, all in different situations, is quite exciting.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and we get the Hero Indian Open, which DLF, golf course really brings, an appetite for, I think, golf public, just the quirkiness of what the course is. Recently played on the Asian Tour too, where we saw like Bryson out there playing it, which was super interesting. So it's definitely a course where you have to almost be like perfect, but like bogey can be more than good on a lot of holes. So you just have to avoid the crazy blow up, right? I mean, the bunkers are insane. Some of the rock cutouts are just nuclear. So I'm excited always when we get this course. You get a good mix of players from a lot of different tours. I don't want to say it's co-sanctioned, but there's a lot of the PGA Tour of India comes in there. And what I love the situations, and we've had this twice now in the year, where the Challenge Tour co-sanctions with the home country tour leading into the DP World Tour event, right? Challenge Tour has gone 2 weeks in a row in India, where previously they had gone in South Africa leading into the Joburg Open, right? I think that helps some of these guys that are in the mid-tier that get to play and stay in the same country. I'm sure it helps financially too with a stretch of that. So I enjoy that kind of mix-up. And then when you do get an odds board like we have here, right? I mean, I'm not sure if Nakajima, maybe when he was kind of in his stretch run, had hit the front as a odds-on favorite too frequently, but then you back it up with a Matthew Jordan, Juice Luton, Sadier, like combination of all these golfers 30-1 and below. It presents a decent opportunity in my mind because, I mean, again, the dichotomy against the PGA Tour where we have two golfers sub 7-1 this week versus this. I mean, there's a lot to whet my appetite for the week.
Yeah, look, as you said, the word is opportunity, and it's funny because it's so hard to, and we'll obviously come on to the selections in a minute, but like anyone you kind of pick this week, you can kind of make a case for in terms of value, right? I mean, Nakajima is going to be the hardest one at 16-1 and things like that, but like every player otherwise is going to go, well, they could have been this price in a field like this last week, etc. So the problem isn't the value this week. I think there's plenty of it. It's trying to, one, narrow down the list from kind of like 10 to 3 or 4. And the second part is you just know that there's a blow up on any hole, as you said, like just limiting it to bogeys, right? So you've got that, like Nakajima's gone and won last year on his debut and first DP World Tour win, but then you've had a more steady operator like someone like Marcel Siem win the year before. And in your head, you're like, do you want this kind of recipe of, yes, someone in great form, but has never won on the DP World Tour, trying to win for the first time under not only just that pressure, but also the kind of risk of all the holes. So it's a great test and one to really work out. A lot of people probably won't love the viewing of it and will find some of the holes ridiculous. Some of the players will absolutely hate it, but I think there's enough of us sickos out there that enjoy them having to kind of, break 75 on one day just to keep the sort of weeks going, right? So, I think it's all in front of us to have a really good week.
Totally. I mean, I think Bryson like playing that event was actually like a really cool thing to have in some of those golfers, because who ended up winning? Was it Neiman that won that one when it was the International Series?
Schneider, right?
Who was that?
Ollie Schneiderhan's won it, I think.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, he did win that. And that was the one that got him basically on to live into what playing basically now, right? So, yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely something that more eyeballs on this golf course. I wish we had a little bit stronger of a field. Would be super cool. I know the Shotgun Start, which I listened to, I probably have talked about a few times. Like that has been a podcast that is obsessed with this course, which is a lot of fun. But yeah, I mean, it's not for the faint of heart.
But I think also like Bryson playing so well there, one is a testament to him as a golfer, right? But also kind of pushes against the narrative. You always kind of in your head think, oh, you just got to get this tidy operator and that's the type of person that's going to get round. And ultimately, I think you can have any style of game. The difficulty is you do not want to be coming into this event with a lack of form. Like you do not want to be trying to find your game at DLF. That would be ridiculous, right? So if you're in good form, trust your swing, no matter whether you hit it far, short, in between, rely on your short game, whatever. I think you can do it all. You just need to just bring your A game. And Schneiderhan spread the field. He beat Bryson by 4 and Neiman and Answer by 8. So you do have the opportunity to do that. It's more of a case of, I think it's just smart golf, right? Like I think there are so many holes that are ridiculous, but we've had it for a few years now. Like it's not like it's the first time and everyone was taken aback by how hard it is and people shooting 85 and 90 and calling everything else ridiculous. Like you've been here 4, 5, 6 years ago. Like just get on with it. Like you know what to expect when you get here. You've been around it the next few times. You know what you can't do. And then it starts to become a real tactical test. And I really like that. So, as you said, could have done with a better field, but that's a common theme on the DP World Tour. And actually, really, when you think about this event, this is probably one of the better renewals of it in terms of depth, I think.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you overall. And again, I mean, my card is littered with long shots because of my lack of, I don't want to say lack of, but I mean, if I tip it to you for your first selection, like you are betting at somebody at 30-1 who hasn't won on the DP World Tour, right? So like there is that bit, but he's in complete control of his game right now.
Yeah, so look, this we'll go straight into it. So Adrian Saturday is my first pick, and this was the biggest, like, and I wrote it kind of on today's golf, right? Like it was, I had to have that conversation with myself. Saturday has never won before. Do I trust him to finally figure out a hole where double bogey is a possibility on every hole? And in the end, I just ultimately said, look, he's just playing too well, because the other sort of picks here I thought about were Matthew Jordan, who is in the same position. He's never won before, and he's 10 points shorter. And Joost Luiten at 28-1, who I don't know in 2025 where I want to be betting at 28-1. So I I do get the concerns, and anyone that kind of listens to this and thinks like, you've just said you want an experienced winner, and then you come to Adrian Sadier, I completely agree. I just think when you look at the kind of numbers and run that he's putting together is, unbelievable, right? So we go back to the start of the year, he misses the cut for the first time out at the Dubai Desert Classic, but then he was 13th for the Ras Al Khaimah, inside the top 20 for the last 3 rounds. 35th in Qatar, solid result, 5th after round 1. He finished 7th in Kenya, where he was inside the top 7 all week. He did withdraw from the South African Open, not sure what happened there, but then straight back to the Joburg Open. Opens with 265s. He's second after rounds 2 and 3, and then struggles on Sunday. And then last week, inside the top 3 all week again at the Singapore Open. And look, there's always this old adage, I guess, of like, what would have happened if he had an extra round? Would he have just completely tailed off, which historically suggests that probably would have been the case, or could he have gone and grown into the event a little bit more and Richard Mansell's tracked down? I mean, that's a very obvious result that can happen, right? So ultimately, we've got to look at it, and he lost by 2 shots. Like, it's as simple as that, and that's what we need to focus on. His approach numbers are solid. He's playing really well. 11th, 15th, and 6th in approach his last 3 starts. 7th, 12th, and 4th in strokes gained tee to green, and that's that all-round game you need. He's never been in the form that he's in right now, and he's been coming to DLF, but he has played here twice before as well, which is something I really liked. Like, when I look at someone like Sadier, you think, well, he hasn't got that much experience, or much positive experience to hang your hat on, but he opened with 67 here on debut. He's 3rd after round 1. The rest of the week was absolutely terrible, but that was the case for a lot of people. And then he was 8th at halfway the last time he played here as well. So yes, he's had a few really high scores around here, but he's also had a couple of really standout results. And I just felt like he was playing just well enough to warrant being picked against the other 2 that were ultimately Jordan and Loughton.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the argument for sure, and I've kind of probably backed off him on his whole little run with just a little bit of a bias in there, which I only choose to do on selective golfers, of course. But totally, I mean, Baroff was on him last week, and exceptional golf. He's just been playing, so it just seems a matter of when versus if. For Sadier, to me, I think the standout at the top of the odds board, and when they opened just recently at 45 to 1 and 2, which is about 10 points longer if it still exists over at Bet Rivers, but Chichara getting Mayo here, right? I mean, we had the conversation when he teed up at the Kenya Open. He was 20th there, which is probably more disappointing than anything, right? Versus the kind of pedigree. But he's left with 0 place to play right now, leaving Live by choice or maybe forced, but also, just the talent he has and trying to get back to the PGA Tour. He needs to win. He needs to play well. He needs to solidify status for himself. And he did play at that same Asian Tour event here, finished top 10, shot an opening 68 to be in the first round lead, so has recent experience at DLF. And I think when he had that conversation at Kenya, I mean, it wasn't that much stronger of a field, but I mean, it's a coin flip. I feel like when you put him up against anybody else in this field in a head-to-head, I would probably, favor Nakajima because of his experience and how well he did last year. But other than that, I think Chichara is right there with anybody else in this field. You get, 10, 15, 20 more points on him, in each way at 45 to 1. Like, that feels very strong.
Yeah, look, as you said, just in terms of talent level, like if we, it's really hard to know, isn't it? We had the same, I think, with sort of David Pooge for a little while. Like, we had no idea because he went to Live straight out the gate and, struggled on Live. He was always good in the international series events, but he struggled on Live. We just didn't know what level they were going to find themselves at, these players. And it's Caleb Surratt, a similar sort of thing, right? And he's kind of picked up his form on Live. Ultimately, these players are still highly talented amateurs that have come to Live to then play in these DP World Tour starts. Chichara's left there through different reasons, I think, but I do believe in him long term. And as you said, it is really a case of finding somewhere to play now. I mean, Schneiderhan's, as you said, he's worked his way onto Live, and but we've had it like in the past. Like Andy Ogletree had nowhere to play for a little while, right? Like it's this level of player that you go, right, well, you've made this decision, it's not worked out for you. Now you've got to put it back, and it's there's always that thing about, they're going to be really motivated. It's the same, you have the conversation that's going to be in the next week or so about, well, this week really, about the Masters, right? Like it's going to be like, okay, well, this is your last shot to get in the Masters. Are you going to win and get in or what? It's that same thing. And the other argument on the other side of it would be, well, if they were good enough and they could turn it on at any point to get into the Masters, they would already be there, sort of thing. So it's always going to be that similar argument. But with Chikara specifically, it is a case of like he just has no choice. He has to go for it. He doesn't have this. He could have been better elsewhere. He would have proved himself before because he didn't. He had live and that was it. So yes, I think Chikara is a good price. I think ultimately the fact that we're disappointed with that 20th at Kenya probably says what we need to say, right? Like the last two starts he's had previous to that, 6th at the Saudi International, 5th at the International Series India, as you said, first round leader there. It didn't carry on the form after round one, but also didn't shoot worse than 74. And that sounds ridiculous to be a positive, but that is a huge positive around here. Like not having this kind of 78, 79, 80, 81 kind of day and debilitating your week is massive. So I'm pretty tempted and probably will join you on Chikara.
Yeah, I just think it's the sexy pick probably of the litter, right? Like that's just kind of how it feels when we get him in that spot. Now for me, I'm backing it up pretty much from this range all the way. I mean, I'll double check if anyone's shortened into double digits, which I don't think so. So I think you're going to kind of go in the mid range. There's a golfer or two I was intrigued on, but if you want to go next for your selection.
Yeah, there's a couple of others before I come on to them I was sort of interested with. It was Hugo Cassard. So he's 5-1. I think he is kind of trending in that direction of, we saw him, we were so impressed with him at the Qatar Masters when he was second there, and he's kind of been 35th, 11th, 25th, 20th the last 4 starts, really solid. Played well enough here last year, 37th. He was 10th at halfway. So he was tempting, but ultimately I decided probably not going to get it done this week. So he was 1. Gavin Green, just an incredible record at this golf course. And again, it's one of those we probably know enough about Gavin Green at this point to not feel entirely confident. That's a concern. But 2nd, 16th, 58th, 8th, and 5th here in 5 visits. That's really hard. That's really hard to keep up that level of consistency. Joost Luiten's another one. Jorge Campillo's got a good record here. Like, it is really hard to be so strong. But one person I've gone to at 55-1 is Marcel Siem. And yes, he did win here 2 years ago. And a lot of people won't like someone like that going and winning it 2 times in 3 years. But I think there's just this depth question again about the DP World Tour. Like, if you look at Marcel Siem, he went almost 9 years without a win, and all of a sudden wins in back-to-back years. And if you go back to the sort of earlier in his, I think it's 2012, 13, and 14, he won in 3 straight years, and he's on course to do that again if he gets a win this season. And I don't see any reason why he wouldn't, to be honest, with the way that he's been playing the last couple of weeks. He was 9th at the Joburg Open, where he started pretty slowly, but then grew into the event. 30th after round 2, 12th after round 3, finishes 9th. And it's the same case last week, and he's definitely one that would have benefited from that 4th round, Sky. Like, he was 53rd round, 40th after round 2, then finished 14th, shot 3rd round 65, or final round 65 as it was. And that was bogey free as well. Like, I think that was a massive thing. You look, he only made 2 bogeys on the week, 1 double. And as you said, like, it's going to be keeping those off the card. And that was what I was looking at. It's like, who just played really solidly last week? Not necessarily the one that won. We know that 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever, and they can't all be picked. But it's just someone that just looked very solid. And we look at sort of repeated form. We've just said about the couple of players there, Gavin Green being the main one, Joost Luiten as well. But Siem beat Yannick Paul here, right? He beat him. He finished 2nd, and he finished 10th last year. So I fully trust Siem to just come back and play well again. And it's whether he's going to go and have that upside of winning twice in 3 years. And I think he probably can. There's a little bit of a crossover between the Golf National and here at DLF, and he's won both of those. He is the strongest proponent of that link, right? So, yeah, just the way that he's been pretty solid over the last 2 events, I think he's found it at the right time. There's not going to be too many occasions, I don't think, unless he wins this week and goes on a tear again, that I'm going to be back in Marcel Siem at 55-1 and shorter, but on a course that I think benefits the kind of level head and and someone a bit more experienced. I mean, Marcel seemed for years wasn't a level head, but certainly in his later years, he looks a little bit more sort of put together. And I think ultimately that's going to serve him well. So it was between someone like him and Loughton, and he was double the price. So yeah, Marcel's team at 55-1.
I remember the sleepless night I had when Marcel Seam won the last time here. I think multiple betting picks well into the mix that week, and then he stole it. I mean, by two that Sunday. I think it was on Yannick.
Yeah.
Yep, totally understand. The one that I kind of did a triple take on in the mid range. I mean, Marco Penge has been still very good. We liked him a month ago, basically, when he started kind of in this form. Ugo was definitely there. I think Todd Clements is showing a good amount of signs as well. Right around your next pick, Martin Kuvra bounced back with the top 20. I still like him at a little bit bigger ballparks overall, but all of those guys were decently close to me. But I think ultimately I still want to land well into some of the deeper odds. So if you want to go on your last one, at least for now, below triple digits.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Kuvra because I've mentioned Cassard already. My next pick is going to be another Frenchman. So at one point, it looks like I was just flying the flag for France. I had to kind of catch myself a bit. But the final pick in this range, short of triple digits for me, was John Won Ko. And look, this is one very much like Sadio, right? We don't have this kind of bank of winning form from him. Sadio is actually a lot more experienced than he is. Ko's only 26 and fairly new to the tour still relative to the rest of the field. But you look at the fact that, multiple visits here, he's finished 18th and 5th. There's not many golfers that can kind of boast that kind of record over a couple of visits. People have peaked and had one really good week, but there's a limited amount that are just completely solid in both visits or more visits than that as well. So I like that. Then you look at the fact, okay, so why would that happen? Well, he was actually 7th at Valderrama as well, which I think you just then look, okay, he probably just likes it when the golf course gets a little bit tough. He's maybe not as good as we potentially expect him to be somewhere where there's a bit of a birdie fest. He might just be a little bit more traditional and just take advantage of sort of the higher scoring events. So then you look at his current form, 31st or better in 4 straight events, which I was really impressed by. It's not a run of form that we generally see out of him. 16th at the South African Open and 20th last week were his 2 best efforts in that span. They were both reduced to 54 holes, those two events. And as I said, you don't really know whether that's a good or a bad thing for someone like Ko. Like he could have then shot 75 and fell away, or he could have, pushed himself up. But just given the difficulty of the test guy and what we know and the repetitive form we have seen here, I just thought it was worth including someone of his nature because we have had a couple of breakthrough winners here already, Nakajima being one of them. And I just wonder if someone that's been so good over just 2 visits, 80-1 was worth including.
Yeah, I mean, I the only thing for Ko for me is I really do trust that driver in his bag to benefit. And I mean, if he can be long and straight, it's a big advantage here. I mean, Bryson obviously, was able to play it too. So just not the events. And maybe I'm leaning into, it's not necessarily like one lean or the other of how you have to play it. It's more like just be in control of your game, like everywhere, basically, I mean, Rory just won at Sawgrass. That again, this isn't really like a comp in that sense, but you have to be in complete control of your golf bag in that manner. And this could be that type of course-esque. So I've got a laundry list. I mean, I've only have one selection here. I got 5 more left in the bag. 2 more that I was for sure betting who decided not to play this week, and I didn't realize the deal that changed. So, but first one, I mean, they're all kind of right in this 100 to 150 range. At least not all, but a couple off the jump. Last week, I was very adamant on Eduardo Molinari. So Tom, I don't know if you had kind of seen that Dodo won Q School and then disappeared. I don't know if it was health related, if it was stats, Ryder Cup related. Who knows? I didn't really get a full pulse of what was going on from his health side of things, but he went up and warmed up on the Nordic Golf League where he finished inside the top 5 in his first 2 events, including a playoff loss over there, which again, Dodo going to play the Nordic Golf League doesn't really add up. But then you're looking at 3 events in a row of first, potentially first, and then like a fourth. And then now we're getting him at more of a course. I bet him last week just because he was 300 to 1 at probably a bigger ballpark. Now you get him at 125s at a course that should be where you would line up for Eduardo Molinari every single time. Like, this is where I would want him. Now he started off bad, but he shot a 66 in round 2, which was, I think, co-round of the day, or right there with some of the best rounds of the day last week. Kind of fumbled it back a little bit on Sunday, but again, seeing that low round in him, I felt really good about that. So Dodo Molinari coming back to me on the card to start.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you could pick someone that is going to be level-headed, tidy, then he ticks those boxes, right? It's actually strange that because he played well, I think, the first time he was here, and then he's sort of struggled since. But I guess it's probably just in keeping with the fact that he's, been so focused on the Ryder Cup for the last, 4 years, really. He's been involved in it. So I think that's probably all it is. The fact that he's now dedicating himself to playing the Nordic Golf League suggests that he wants to sort out his own game for the time being. So, I think sometimes that's just like eye-catching. We would love to see some other veteran go back and kind of piece together their game, right? Like, I think someone like Manacero dropping down and playing Alps Tour, rebuilding himself back up, slightly younger player and more time to figure it out. But that type of story is something we like. So, yeah, I completely get the idea behind it.
So he was first up. Second up, there's a 150 on this guy, which isn't going to stay long. He's pretty much down to 90s or maybe even 100s in some other spots. But I was shocked we got a price on Josh Berry. I was very shocked because, again, you talk about the lead-in form in the country on the Challenge Tour. Josh Berry goes win and then a playoff loss in the 2 events in India. And honestly, what checked the box just as much for me is, Kenya is a tight golf course where you have to play, fairway green golf, which I would love for somebody to do here at DLF. And he finished 7th in that event too. Now, Josh Berry, I believe he's 20 now? Like, he's a young guy.
He's the youngest DP World Tour holder.
19 years, 10 months after getting on, he was full-time on the DP World Tour pretty much last year, had played well in Kenya the year before too. So, you kind of get that happening again at maybe a really tight golf course. I just don't understand the price, man. Like, they could have made him 50 to 1 and not taken on any leverage on him, but I just don't get it. Like, that's for sure to me a bet.
Yeah, before you spilled it out to me and I really looked at it a bit more sort of more deeper, like, it is amazing. And I think it's one of those that you get to the end of the week and you weren't really considering it, and then you go, well, hang on a minute, like, he's just had this massive lead in form on the Challenge Tour, comes here and just carries it on. And we saw that, right? Like, talking about Kenya, like, these were the players we were targeting in Kenya and South Africa, are these Challenge Tour players warming up. And for whatever reason, the hotel planners, or whatever it's called now, has got this schedule right in working out how to get these players best prepared for DP World Tour events. And in the end, I think it's benefiting the 2 tours, but also just the players themselves. And I guess the reason we can get a bit of a number is because if you just isolate his actual DP World Tour form, it's like 7th and then a bunch of missed cuts. But you have to factor in that this guy is not even 20 years old yet, and he's just gone 1st and 2nd his last 2 starts, regardless of where he's playing. And we've also seen, like, he's had 27th in Denmark before. He was 23rd last year in Kenya. So we're about to find out whether he just loves Kenya and plays well when he's on the Challenge Tour, or whether he's capable of stepping out, which I'm sure he is. Yeah,
100%. And I think with more sets, I think he just is better at these smaller courses. Qatar and the South African Championship, he was terrible in those events, right? And he just couldn't really use anything off of the tee in either of those. So first 2 there. Third up should be right there in the near prices. I thought we were going to get a longer number on him, honestly. But Jordan Gumberg next up for me. Now, Gumberg also owns a piece of my heart after beating Robin Williams in that playoff, right, a couple years ago, or last year, what it was. But, Gumberg was kind of the original guy who was kind of fighting on some not original guy, but getting, tours, getting starts throughout the mini tours and kind of trying to figure out a spot around the world. of where to play some golf, because like basically from turning pro in 2017, 2018, never had a home anywhere up until he got that win. I guess he played on the Challenge Tour a decent amount the year prior. In 2023, it qualified for the U.S. Open, but then 2024 he got that win at the SEC Championship. Honestly, didn't do anything else the rest of the year. Right, his best finish after that the entire year was T48. So a super odd year. But then he kind of flipped a switch here. Australia, T16, Dubai, T17, last time out, T14 in Singapore. So that's 4 made cuts in a row from Gumberg. He is exceptional when it comes to accuracy. And, if you looked at last week under that all-around ranking, because again, it's tough to digest strokes gained stats on the DP World Tour that we don't have IMG for. So you don't really know. But again, that best event kind of leading in with accuracy and just overall looked like through his bag, he was very in control of his game. I think he's going to be a really good course fit at DLF. And I think at 150s, I'm going in.
Yeah, and I think like the ultimate thing, Scott, that you've already mentioned, like 4 made cuts in a row. Like that, like when I look at it and just look at someone like John Wonko and you go, okay, well, where do those 4 finishes see him fit in this field? And to be honest, they've all been relatively similar levels of events. So I think Singapore obviously had a few star names in it, and so perhaps you can upgrade that finish. But like the South African ones, Kenya, are very similar. So the fact that these guys are just churning out made cuts, and that's really all you need coming into this event, right? Like it's just you need to be in a solid all-round part of your game. Gumberg has had those sort of flash finishes so far in his career. So yeah, I do get it. I think it's one of those that really, again, just highlights, and I keep, hammering home the point, but just highlights the slight lack of depth we've got in the DP World Tour now, is that these players can come and just put together 4 or 5, 6 runs of events and do so well. I mean, Gumberg, obviously, as you said, has now got that win under his belt, Robin Williams. So we know the huge upside. He had, second and third place finishes on Challenge Tour as well. So the fact that his kind of best finishes on the DP World Tour have all come in this year suggests that he's kind of taken another step. And like another point I always hammer home is like, look, this guy's 29, and people might think it's taken a long time to get there, but really and truly, like in golf terms, just because of what happened with COVID, he's really like 27.
Yeah.
Like I still believe in this quite a lot, and I think it is coming to fruition in the long run. That like losing those couple of years to really take your game to the next level has been really critical to some people, and we will see a fallout of it, of people just completely disappearing, but also see okay, we give these guys a couple of extra years and they will come good, and Gumberg might be the latest kind of example of that.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, he definitely is showing the underlying stats. I mean, that's kind of the big thing. And you get a price and you get a shot. So I think Gumberg's one. And then next up, I guess I have 2 longer shots. Is there anybody else this way? The other one that I debated, my guy Golf Gambler just reached out about him and I was close. Minkyu Kim is going to pop at some point. He did recently. Didn't like that he didn't compete really in Kenya, but Minkyu was kind of on the radar. Anybody else kind of in this range radar-wise for you?
Yeah, we backed Kim, didn't we, without success? I guess that was at Kenya, right? Like, I think that was when we did.
Yes, I think it was. We did him and Zio Jin were the 2 that I stayed on for both those reasons. Good course fit, yeah.
Yeah, I do get it. Ricardo Govier, I looked at 90-1, just been really solid, has played well here before. Nacho Elvira going back to just slightly below the hundreds. A couple of players I looked at. To be honest, I found it quite hard. Like it's in my head this morning, I was like, look, there's probably a great time to play a 200, 300, 400 one shot because everyone's going to struggle and there's going to be some sort of carnage, and just holding on might actually be good enough for you. And then I kind of landed on this, let's just find these really solid informed players, which I've then done, which is why they're all short of hundreds. But if I think about sort of like tidy players, like Joel Gerbach is someone like that. Interestingly, someone like Alexander Knapp has had 2 really good starts here, like 6th and 17th. He's 400-1. But there wasn't one that I had this massive feeling on. I mean, people will surely look at Dan Eriksson last week, 36-hole leader, finishes 6th, and he's still all the way down in 400-1. I think people are realising it's probably a bit of a flash in the pan and he's got to go and play in India now. But for some people, that would appeal. Yeah,
he was worth at least looking into. I have 2 One I haven't even brought up to you into text yet, that I was on my short list once Katsuhigara and Kaburi decided not to play. They would have been 1-2 for the week, so it's a shame they withdrew. But old friend alert here, Tom. I don't know how he got a start, but he's been on my radar via the Australia tour for a while. Basically, now that he's found his home, Austin Batista is in this field at 500 to 1 with 4 out of the last 5 events top 20s on the Australia-Asia tour. Third at the Victorian Open, 16th at the WebEx where he was 12th at the halfway point, 29th in between there. He's 13th at the halfway point in that event, 15th the week after that where he was the first round leader, 5th at the halfway point, 20th last week where he was 7th at the halfway point, 12th going into the last round. Now, again, one top 5 out of those 5 events for him. I'm just a believer in the talent of Austin Batista. I think he can, from a short game perspective, he used to have a really dynamite short game. So when you left me an opportunity at 500 to 1 to bet a golfer here, what I find in some form at this event was the first one for me there. But we don't have just one. We've got a second one all the way down the board to, I guess, any Austin Batista thoughts? Because I know we bet him for, I probably forced you to bet him a lot a few years ago.
Yeah, like it's someone that we've got a very limited profile on, right, on the DP World Tour specifically. So probably I think it was his first event, like in Austria, he finished 7th. And then it's just been a whole bunch of miscuts, which is why he's the price he is on the DP World Tour. But again, another person, as you said, settled and found his home. He plays well at home. And that might just lead him into a good week. So at 500 to 1, there really isn't too much to think about. Just play him and hope for the best. I would say if you're going to bet him, probably bet him first round leader as well, because he does like to start fast. And he is the type of player I think that can go and shoot a low number against the green, right, and then go and shoot like 80. Like I feel like he's the type of player that can go 65, 80 with no problem whatsoever. So I think that is probably the way I'd play him. Is definitely a sprinkle on the first round leader as well.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, so before I go on my final selection, give a shout out to all of our audio listeners. You can find us on Daily Fantasy Sports Picks and Bets, The Mix, available across all Mayo Media Network platforms. So really appreciate all the support we get, the comments, the love, and YouTube too goes a long way. Liking and commenting and making sure that if there's any feedback, please fire away on that. So Tom, last selection, let me double check the odds here. It should be, yep, there is still the 1,000 to 1 available on Yuvra Sandhu. So again, there's multiple Sandhus, but Yuvra is the one I'm landing on. 1,000 to 1 right now at Bet365. Yuvra, 2-time winner back-to-back on the PGA Tour of India in his 2 starts on the calendar year. He won both of those. Other than that, he has played on the Asian Tour where he went miscut T45, T26 miscut. Now, where you can kind of lean into here is the International Series Macau just last week, right? If you look at that specifically, so last week, I mean, that was the live heavy event, right? You had Ortiz, Reed, Kokrak, all earning Open Championship spots. Sergio was in the top 10, Adrian Meronk, Lucas Herbert, all those guys going into the last round. Sandhu was in, I believe it was 8th place. Yeah. Yes, 8th going into the last round. And then you look at the traditional stats from it. So Sandhu last week was 5th in driving accuracy, 12th in greens and regulation, showed a tidy short game. Overall, just probably missed a few putts. Looks like that. Like his ball striking was top 5. He probably had strokes gained statistics kind of in that event. So very impressed underlying form for him. And then habitually every time when he's popped down, right? PGA Tour of India last year, he had 2 other starts or 3 other starts, and they were 3rd, 4th, and then 25th. So the guy just seems to be dominating when he goes down to the competition. He's 28 years old now, but he was also a winner in 2023, a 5-time winner on the PGA Tour of India in 2022. I didn't see specifically anything that popped at DLF. I figured somebody with that type of form, in India and the price he's at probably doesn't have the best history when it comes to DLF, but I mean, I think he made the cut at the Asian Tour International Series, and then was 25th and 33rd when they played here. Yeah, 25th, where he was 8th at the halfway point back in 2023. So there's just some underlying stuff at 1,000-1 long shot with recent form, experience here, and domination when he plays on the PGA Tour of India.
Yeah, I think, look, I think this goes down the same route that we always go down with these home players, right? Ultimately. But I think what this one is probably is a really solid, like, top 40 or top 20 shout, right? Like, you're going to get that inflated number to do something that he is clearly very capable of doing. Is he capable of winning this field? I mean, 1,000-1 suggests no, but that's not what we're worried about, Sky, is it? We're worried about swapping a cup of coffee for a home run pick there. And I mean, it's quite impressive that he's got that 8th at the halfway mark in this event specifically. Like, if we were talking about, like, the only time he's ever played here was in, mini tour events and all those sort of things, I probably wouldn't pay it too much attention. But they say the 25th when they played here in the Indian Open and being 8th after round 1 and 2 is really impressive. And as you said, the effort last week where he just underlying stats was really good, you kind of have to pay attention. I don't think we just completely discount the fact that he's not quite at the level. So I do like that. It's the same sort of case, a bit more extreme, like someone like Josh Berry. Like, if someone's playing well, don't ignore it. Like, we have seen someone like Veer Alawat come and play really well, right?
That was the other one that I was going to bring up in this range, right? Like, I had to find somebody who's from the PGA Tour of India to bet on, right? We bet on Gondis, we bet on Alawat last year in this event. I even thought SSP Chariza, I mean, he's older now, right? I mean, he's past the prime, but I mean, this was his course, and he showed some life on one of those Challenge Tour events 2 starts ago, too.
Yeah, so Chariza was going to be the one that I mentioned. Like, he was kind of like a DP World Tour, like, legend, and like the person before we had Shubhankar Sharma, right? And Alaban Lahiri. So if you listen to probably who they looked up to, I'm sure they mentioned him. And he did, as you said, showed a bit of life. I think he finished 6th in the end that couple of weeks ago. I think it was the Kolkata Challenge, right? And there were 2 really good rounds. And, he's a former winner at the golf course.
He's won like 3 times at this golf course.
Yeah, like, he is like the perfect candidate to just go and have a really big week. He's been really bad here for a long period of time since that last win, because he is old and things have got ahead of you. And look, you're being asked to take 350 to 1 instead of 700 to 1 because it's in India or whatever. But that's also got to be accounted for. Like, he's in India, he's comfortable, he loves his golf course. He has just finished 6th in a Challenge Tour event. I think he's worth noting at the very least.
Yeah, for sure. I just landed with Sandhu just from the Asian Tour. Chariza played in the Asian Tour last week, missed the cut there. So I think there's just a little bit more for 4 times the price, Yeah. So, okay, wrap it up. Tom, if you want to review your card from the top, please.
Yeah, so I've gone with Adrian Sadier at 30 to 1. I'm joining you on Eugenio Lopez Chacara at 45 to 1. Marcel Seam at 55 to 1. And then Jungwon Ko at 80 to 1. And that is my card.
Perfect. So Eugenia Chichara for me, 45 to 1. Eduardo Molinari, 125 to 1. And then Josh Berry available. Oh, looks like they cut Berry's price here slightly. Okay, so Berry will go in at 100 to 1 officially. I'm still okay with that price. So Berry, 100 to 1. Eduardo Molinari, 125 to 1. Jordan Gumberg, 150 to 1. And then we will go with Austin Batista. Let me double check that the best price still. Yep, 500 to 1 there. And then round it out with Yuvra Sandhu, 1,000 to 1. I think you're right in Sandhu and Batista, adding in some first round leader action with both of those guys too for the week. Perfect.
Yeah. I think it also, Sky, like, before we come off here, like, there's just some huge names down here at massive prices. And when I say huge, I mean like relative to the DP World Tour, but like players that we always talk about, like Justin Harding, Levy, Baldwin, all players are out of form. Bjerregaard, 350 to 1, had a bit of a renaissance. Like Matthias Schwab, who was on the PGA Tour not long ago, 275 to 1. Like, there's going to be someone like that. Benjamin Hebert's been playing well, 200 to 1. Hafid Barmer at 175. Like, there's going to be someone in that ilk that plays well. And obviously the challenge is finding one of those. Darius Mandrill, very tidy player, one in Kenya. Like, you're going to get someone like that, and it's just have a real deep dive. Like, in the end, I've settled on the fact that I think there's 4 players that I'm happy with that can actually win it, and probably you're sort of chasing a bit of a long price for no reason on some of these others. But I think it's worth looking at, especially for like DFS purposes and stuff. Like, we don't play that over in the UK now, but like looking at some of those players just to be the 1% that gets you through the cut is worth looking at, I think.
For sure. No, fun week where you can spray and pray, definitely. So we have the Masters that creates this gap overall. So Tom and I will be back. The game plan is for the China swing, which will be, I think, the week after the Masters. So that is the 17th. Is that, I think, the event kicks off. We'll be off for a few weeks here. So you can find us again at Skyhook DFS, at Tom Jacobs 93 on Twitter. We appreciate all of your support, and we'll see you guys in April. Good luck.
Thanks, Scott.